So here's Qabbalah explained with as little time as possible. Let's think of Kether as the limitless, endless light of potential for eternity. Let's start there. So here's path working as well. When Kether pours into Chokmah, he's saying, here's my energy to continue creating, right? Because that's what Chokmah is. Chokmah is abundance shot out into the universe to create and infinitely be the pure expression of pushing force, right? That's what Kether is saying to Chokmah. Here's what I want you to become. So that's the full card. That's the full path. Now the path to Bina, Kether to Bina, the Magus card, he's saying to Bina, here's my light energy to capture what is being poured out, right? So he just created male and female, masculine, feminine. So if anyone in your life is one that you're pouring into to create, like say if you're a seed investor pouring into a business because you want them to become something, you're being a Kether to someone's Chokmah. And then if you see someone who, is prepared to receive that, if you're say maybe creating a clientele, right? Maybe creating a group of receptors, that's the Magus card, to create something to capture what's being poured out. So in a way, you just created both sides, you played both sides. Now, the relationship between Chokmah and Bina, we've got the Empress card. Now, that relationship, you look at the Empress card and you see what's happening here. Chokmah to Bina is here. You're perfect for me and I'm giving you what I've been created to give you. Bina is saying the same thing in reverse. I am created to capture everything that you have been created to give. We come as a unity. That's the Empress card. The exchange that's happening there. Now, if we were to say, okay, so then we have Doth, we have the void. Now, the void is such an expanse of mental, spiritual, physical energy that the human body isn't capable of tracking that. So say, for example, if we were to think about time, right? You think back 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, but the further back you go, the distance starts to seem so far conceptually, to the point that it goes into obscurity. We can't see that far back. We can't remember that far back. So say, for example, for us to remember the establishment of countries or some far away historic thing, we have to literally create a black hole. We have to create a gap for us to speed all the way through and jump to that point that we do remember. That represents Doth jumping across the abyss. Mic drop, by the way. So likewise, if we were to think about space, right? They say it takes like 60 years to travel to Mars or something like that. I don't know. But just imagine that distance of time. It's difficult to fathom. Now, we know generally the number, but for us to imagine ourselves jumping to Mars, we literally have to zip 60 years in time and then think of that next point. And just going even further, to Pluto. Pluto is so far away from us, supposedly, that to think of Pluto, we have to zip across the conception of time, or the concept of time. Again, this is all Doth symbology. Now to continue. When Kether, the path shining from Kether down to Tifereth, that's the high priestess. Now the energy there, the relationship there is, Tifereth is that energy which pours down into the manifest dimension. And all of the manifest dimension revolves around Tifereth, because Tifereth is seen as their savior, their God incarnate. Just the way that we look at the sun, right? The sun gives us everything we need to literally exist. Without the sun, there would be no us. So we have no choice but to respect the sun. We have no choice but to worship the sun. Because as a matter of fact, anything we choose to worship came from the sun. So anything, the idea and the concept of worship in the first place is the sun. That's Tifereth. That's the relationship with Tifereth. So that's Kether shining into Tifereth. That's what the path of Gimel is, crossing the abyss. That's what crosses the abyss. The concept of the eternal saying, I exist, and behold me, worship me. That's Tifereth. That's the path of Gimel, the high priestess. Now the path of across that abyss is the path of Bina to Chesed. Now Chesed represents that same Chokmah energy, but in the manifest dimension. So in Chesed, it's literally, let me give you something physical. Let me give you something tangible. Let me give you something that already exists. You might not be able to get it, but I can get it for you. That's chesed, right? So again, we can think of investors or CEOs or anyone who has a great idea that is so great that people can live in it, right? For example, somebody created NBA, right? Somebody created the NBA. So now there are people who have whole careers and lifestyles wrapped up in the NBA. Somebody facilitated that change. That is chesed. And that, by the way, is the concept that crosses the abyss. Of all the potential things that could exist in Bina, of all the potential things that could have burst forth out of Chokmah, of all the infinite things of what Kether is, what crosses the abyss is the enterprising spirit. Because think about it. The fact that we exist means that we exist within some things chesed. So it is across the abyss that we get the concept of multiple worlds and multiple dimensions. There are infinite cheseds. We exist in one of them. Crossing the abyss may lead to another. So discipline and clarity of mind is necessary to be able to ensure that one crosses the abyss, as opposed to just jumping to another chesed, which happens more frequently than you might imagine. So that's what crosses the abyss. Now from chesed to Gibra, right? That's the strength card. Now Gibra is the spirit that knows it's hated. It knows that nobody else likes it because it's the disciplinarian. It's what slices the burner of God. If you're not on the list, you're getting taken out. It's that serious. That's what Gibra represents. So that's the strength card. It's not merely a merciless slicer. No, it has a soul too. It hurts to have to cut something off. So think of the compassionate killer. Think of the warrior who doesn't go to war for killing somebody. The warrior who goes to war because he believes in the cause. And he knows that he's going to have to take some losses. He's going to have to crack a few eggs in order to make the omelet. But he does what's necessary because it's the right thing to do. That's Gibra. Now imagine the relationship between chesed and Gibra. That's the strength card. To be the enterprising spirit, but know that also you're going to have to cut off some of your own self. So that's the strength card. Having the strength to be able to do that. And likewise, coming from the perspective of Gibra to chesed, understanding that, you know what, in order for me to become what I aim to become, or for the thing that I believe in to become and manifest, I'm going to have to slice some things off, even if they feel good. So again, that's the strength card. Now, both of those link to Tifereth. Both of them link to the spheres below them. From chesed to Tifereth. Now, Tifereth, like I said, being the light that men worship. We've got the Emperor card. Sitting on the throne and knowing that the concept is worshipped, and that is the concept of the light, not the concept of ego, concept of the highest, most high. So it doesn't take the limelight, but it sits on the throne. This is the one behind the sun. And then likewise, you can think of the path between Gibra to Tifereth, the lovers, Gemini. This is the spirit that knows when it's necessary to slice and cut away to become the greatest that ever was. Making sacrifice, but in the name of love. And not suffering for it. Being rewarded for it, being gratified. Notice the lower we down, we get to more tangible terms, right? Because we're getting more individualized as we descend down the tree. Okay, so Emperor card, Lover's card. Now we've got Netzach. And by the way, from Chokmah to Chesed is the Pope, the Hierophant. The Hierophant, that's the one who sits on the real throne. Right? There's no contest. Literally, God that walks earth, like the real Christ, if there ever was one. Imagine the people in his community and him sitting on the seat of power, right? Or her. Who knows? Who knows? Think if there was someone on earth who was literally so powerful and everyone in their world knew it. Oh my God. Like, they don't even get bad tweets because people who aren't worthy don't even know they exist. Someone who is only known by people who worship them. This is the Hierophant, who comes with a message that is literally uncontested. With a message that comes directly from God. At least to those recipients it does. Everything he says is the word of God, right? That's the Hierophant. And again, this is from Chokmah to Chesed. I'm missing one. Bina to Gibura. I'll have to check my paper to see what path that is. Forgive me. But hey, no one else is going to give you this, so. Where are we? We are at Chesed to Netzach. So that's the Wheel of Fortune. That's the Wheel of Fortune. This path, okay, so to explain Netzach. Netzach is, let's say for example, the artist who knows what the divine is and creates with that as an inspiration. Now, of course, coming through an artist, the tastes are going to be theirs. So people who like that artist's artwork are going to be attuned to that taste. Just like a radio station has like a bunch of frequencies, you're going to tune into the one that you like. Likewise, when it comes to artists, they create based on what they're tuned into. And if you like what they like, you're tuned into them. This is why Netzach is associated with these rays. This is also nature. Some creatures are herbivores, some are carnivores. Some stay out at night, some stay out in the day. There's all these different frequencies of existence. This represents Netzach. Netzach is all the categories within the categories of life, of beauty. We're not really analyzing them. We just know they exist and we appreciate where we belong. So again, there's not a concept of enemies or even good versus evil. The snake eats the rat, right? The rat eats the corn and peas and whatever. The corn and peas eats certain nutrients in the soil that we can't even imagine. Those nutrients in the soil eat something else. It literally goes on forever. In both directions. Not good and evil, just different angles of existence. So think Tifereth connected to that aspect. Fueling that process. And on the other side, we've got Hod. Now, Hod is the spirit that analyzes and dissects Tifereth. It knows every piece and particle. So here's where you get the sciences. You get the science of astronomy, of astrology, of biology, of genealogy, all these different ologies, all these different sciences. Someone and institutions that dedicate their existence to analysis, to analyzing specific things. This is the energy of Hod. This is why Hod is Mercury in Thoth, the teacher. Not so much in that he teaches you something, but he represents the power, the source energy that represents different categories. And all those categories put together, if you could literally learn everything that exists to learn, if you were to swallow up all knowledge in the universe and understand it all, that's the sphere of Hod in relation to Tifereth. And Tifereth continually sacrifices itself because it is endless. It knows it's endless. The lower spheres don't know, but Tifereth knows that it's endless because Tifereth knows Kether personally. Now, even though to cross the abyss is an extremely deep void of time, that's what a black hole is, us just jumping to the next conclusion. Then we've got Yesod. Now, Yesod represents what it takes to be able to fall in love with science and what it takes to be able to fall in love with nature and art and beauty. We're all in love with something. But the very substance of love, we'll find our personal connection to that in Yesod. The very thing that fuels us to feel what we feel, all that's happening in Yesod. The Vedics called it Chitta. Mind stuff. Mind stuff. This is Yesod. We call this the etheric plane. And we're all connected to it. This is our personal connection to God. The very fact that we know that God exists and know that there's some way, somehow to get in touch with him, all that's made of Yesod is called belief. It is with belief that we carve existence out of stone. A quick question, what are you carving, by the way? What are you carving? What did you choose to create? And what are you choosing to create right now? So important, so important. But that's Yesod. The path from Tifereth to Yesod is that which supports everything because it is Kether in existence. It is God in the flesh. It is the same spirit that pours into Chitta, mind stuff, belief, memory, imagination, the etheric plane. That exists because there is a direct path to God. That's why when you go to Christian church, they say that through me is the Father. I am the Son. I'm the Word. I am the pathway to heaven. That's why we consider that Christ energy the pathway to God. Because imagination, belief, and faith exists because of Tifereth. The very fact that creatures that walk this low earth can even believe and reach up to something so high. The fact that we can do that is Yesod. A dog don't do that. An earthworm doesn't do that. At least as far as we know. But we know that we do that. We know that all too well. We all believe in something. Even if we believe in something that is earthly, right? We may believe that we have bad luck. You believe that that check is coming next paycheck. You believe that rent's going to be due. You may believe that person is going to continue to abuse you. You may believe that you're a failure. You may believe that you are an addict, right? You may believe that you're successful. You may believe that you are the most important person in the world. You may believe that the universe revolves around you. No matter what, you believe in something. That is called Chitta, mind stuff. This is Yesod. And you don't understand how powerful it is. Because you literally have the choice to believe in anything. And if you believe in the right thing, you might change your reality. Yesod, the etheric plane, is the most important plane to the incarnated individual because it is through this aspect of reality that we have control over. So, the path between Tifereth and Yesod is temperance. On the card, you'll see an angel pouring water from one glass to another with its foot on the water and its foot on the earth. This is that force that is in between planes. This is that force that is in between change and power. Power being the ability to facilitate change. The ability and the capacity to facilitate change. That's power. And that's what's being poured between those cups. And the foot on the earth and the foot on the water represents being the gateway between the material plane and the astral plane, which, like I said, is the etheric plane. Yesod. Yesod is the gateway, the most important. So the path between Tifereth and Yesod is a path that represents the exchange of the power to create belief. Now, from Hod to Netzek is the Tower card. Immediate, abrupt, distinct transformation. Bam! Imagine what happens in the scientist's mind when they listen to an amazing piece of music and realize that there is pattern within art. There is a science in art. And all this time I thought art was just for, people lost in La La Land. But even art is beautiful. Imagine the explosion that happens in a scientist's mind for the first time when they realize that. And imagine what happens in the mind of an artist who realizes, damn, there is a business to this game. I might not be the best artist, but if I can master the business, I'm still going to accomplish my dreams. That's the energy of the Tower card. Distinct, rapid, instant, immediate change. Like as soon as you make that realization, everything that you did up to that point, you now see a new purpose for it, right? You might have studied something for years or been involved with something for years, and then eventually you're getting to the point where you're thinking, I wasted my life. But the moment you realize that all that stuff you thought was useful suddenly becomes valuable to you, that's the Tower card. Literally everything about your reality changes. As a side note, a lot of people associate negativity with this card. Now, where that comes from is the fact that human beings are very comfortable and we want things to be static. We want things to be familiar. So when we think about change, especially rapid change, we're afraid of that. The ego is afraid of that. The aspect of us that's called ego, which, by the way, also resides on this path. It is ego that's falling from the tower. Everyone has one, a king and a peasant. That's why in the tarot cards you'll see a king and a peasant jumping down from that tower. Instant rapid change. All right, so we're finishing up. We're almost done. One of my favorite paths, the 32nd path, is the path between Yesod and Malkuth. Now, Malkuth, this is what we all know. I don't care who you are. This is the general public. This is everybody. Everybody that exists is Malkuth, and everything that exists is Malkuth. Malkuth is actual, physical, objective, tangential expression and reception of that expression. In other words, this includes everyone, including you. Malkuth. The path between Malkuth and Yesod, which is the imagination and our direct access to God and even what's behind God, the 32nd path, the universe, is a transformative path. It's a transformative path because Yesod has to literally shift into a different state, into a different nature to become Malkuth. So here is another gap, another void, another abyss to cross. From the moment that you sit here in your body to going into a daydream, you can't track how far that was. You don't know how far you jumped to go from your physical body to a daydream or to a vision or to an imagination. Oh, that's an extreme jump. That's an extreme jump. That's the distance between Malkuth and Yesod. That's the 32nd path. So there's twisting and a turning and an upside down and an inside outness about that. For your physical conception to become a vision, a daydream, something in your head. Now look, you've been doing it since you've existed, so it probably doesn't seem so weird. But the imagination is a whole different reality than physical reality. But again, like I said, everyone has this. This is why the 32nd path is the direct path from Malkuth to Yesod to Tifereth to Kether. The issue here is that just like there are multiple Cheseds across the abyss, there are multiple Malkuths across Yesod. Likewise, multiple Yesods across Malkuth. This is why in these Kabbalistic texts, they say that the 32nd path is the gateway into multiple paths or multiple abysses of the Qliphoth, the tunnels of Set. It's so close to where we are because it's so easy to get lost. That's why the virtue of Malkuth is discipline, discernment, to be able to distinguish between what is useful, what is appropriate. And of course, this is a quality that comes from Geburah, but also there's an abundance that we have to sift through, which comes from Chesed. We know that the light is behind this. That's why we're passionate. That's why anyone, even someone who is, atheistic, even one who doesn't believe in God, believes in something. So that's their God. They might call it something else. They might not spell it G-O-D, but there's something that they're after to discover. There's something that fuels them. So there's multiple Tifereths in this abyss or void on this 32nd path. There's multiple sciences to choose from. That's the abyss between Malkuth and Had. The fact that there are so many different distinctions for your ego, for your mind to go into. That's the path between Had and Malkuth. And notice as we get closer to manifest reality, the rate and quality of this conversation changes. All intentional. From Malkuth to Netzach, the path represents the very sensual and very solid and objective appreciation. The fact that we can feel good. The fact that we can feel good even if it's standing outside in the sunlight. Even if it's eating a certain food. Even if it's being physically connected with another person. Everything that feels good. And the fact that we have something to feel it with. That's that path. The 29th path. So essentially, all of the tree of the life, all of the 32 paths are a representative of what a human being can experience. And through these paths, we can actually go in reverse and trace our way back up to what we consider God. We can track our way back to purpose. We all are looking for purpose. We're all looking for something. Even if it's not purpose, we're looking to fulfill the needs and the desires of those we love. We're all looking for something. We're looking to overcome and triumph. We're looking to prove ourselves. We're looking to just get by. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's looking for something. And if you made it this far, you're looking for something. What Qabala and the Tree of the Life illustrates is the fact that there's a process from point A to point B, from Malkuth all the way back home to Kether. And if you believe in something, right there is the default ticket that you're going to make it, quote unquote. I mean, if we have to put this in terms of, is there a heaven, or am I gonna make, or whatever the deep questions you have about reality, this is for that aspect of your thoughts. The fact that Qabala exists means that there is somewhat of a traceable pathway to get to whatever it is you want, whatever it is you desire, whatever it is that you seek to express. Because in truth, nothing in the external dimension gives us anything. All of it is within. And what I mean by that is the stuff that you're made of contains the answers, and they also contain the questions. So the fact that you have a question means that the answer is there too. All that's in the belief stuff, the stuff that makes belief, even if you want to call it mental energy or prana or whatever, the stuff that fuels a question in the first place is the same stuff that has the answer. It's a positive and negative battery. One attracts the other. We call that the Ida and Pingala. In the Vedic system, the two serpents that flow up the middle path, which is called Sushumna, which is the gateway to enlightenment. That's why spiritual study leads to an increase in the intelligence. Leads to genius. Alright, so that was literally the shortest explanation of what Qabala is. I did it in under 30 minutes. And that's that. Enjoy your life and pick something that makes sense, right? But then again, that implies you have a choice. That's another one of the questions. The fact that Kether burst forth and poured into this reality and created a chesed within a bina, created a reality for us to exist in, right? Because chesed also is just like somebody creating Grand Theft Auto or Fortnite. And now people invest their lives into Fortnite and Grand Theft Auto. They invest like the real life money, their real life time, real life energy into Fortnite. That's a chesed. Somebody created that reality. So somebody created this reality that we all live in. And just like Fortnite and Grand Theft Auto, there's rules in place. There's rules in place. We have a joke whenever we play Fortnite. The main guy who created Fortnite is called Donald Mustard. So whenever something in the game happens that's weird or it seems like it's rigged against us, we say, oh, there goes old Mustard, you know, just like the Truman Show where the producer was in the moon watching down on Truman. We have this little inside joke that's who we blame whenever something goes wrong in our plans. Just like in real life, when something goes wrong, you got somebody to blame. Despite how you feel about them, you're placing them in chesed, because literally your reality revolves around them. If you have someone in your life who you blame everything for and you attach everything to, that's your chesed. You're living in their world. You're living in a world that they created for you. Even if someone traumatized you, you're living in the shadow of their existence. This is why it's so important to come into an inner acceptance, balance, and harmony with your past. Because if you don't, you're continually living in someone else's reality. And if that's what you want, then fine. But if that's what you don't want, now you know what to do. Start creating your own. Step by step, little by little. It's not overnight. But again, that's what the abyss represents. That infinite space of time that we can't quite calculate because we don't know. We just know that there's something on the other side. From me grabbing the controller to having all my attention infused into the video game, that's a space of time. That's a gap. That's a leap of consciousness. And for you to go into any type of trance, there's a leap of consciousness. From alpha state to beta state to theta state. Hell, you can't even trace from when you lay down to when you go to sleep, right? That's a gulf in time. That's a gap. That's a space that we can't quite calculate. You don't know. You can't calculate from laying down to being in a dream. There's a gulf. There's an abyss there. Again, that's 30-second path. Okay, so enjoy Qabala. Have a great rest of your day.